haven't seen you in a while. How's the job going? Hey, LJ. Yeah, got fired 2 weeks ago, mate. Two weeks ago. Yeah, forgot you were fired. My bad. Anyway, listen. Bit of a while. I know you like to have a little flutter on the old ponies, a little bit of a bet every now and again. I've got something for you, alright? This horse, this little trotter, is going to go into next weekend's race. It's gonna piss it, mate. It's going to absolutely fly home. Like, it's not even going to try. It's winning, alright? It's winning. Guaranteed to win. I mean, how's it guaranteed? I swear this got embarrassed like the other week and it broke its leg. No. Do not worry about that because it's won before. Like, it's beaten better horses in a different race that's totally irrelevant. So it's gonna win. I know the jockey. That jockey bloody loves this horse. The horse is gonna win. Hey, do you know what? I trust you. If you're guaranteeing it's gonna win, if you're saying it's gonna win, I'll put my life savings on it. We'll go in and I'll never need a job again. I can get my wife that dream house she's always wanted, can finally pay off all of our debts. It'll be great. Fine, let's do it. Yeah, Liam, the horse lost and she's getting a divorce. What? Huh? What's that? Oh, the door's going. Alright, see you later. Oh yeah, bye. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of This Week in Philadelphia Sports, where, as you might have guessed it, we go over everything that's happened this week in Philadelphia sports again and try to avoid an emotional breakdown. If you're new to this channel, it would be amazing if you can hit that subscribe button and leave a like. More than anything though, we would love to hear your comments about today's topics. There's plenty to discuss and we'd love to hear your opinions on them. And if this video gets to 500 likes, we'll give away a Philly Sports Network hoodie. So the pressure's on. If you want to be part of this community, hit that like button. Free hoodie coming your way. I don't want to get straight into the Eagles because I want to try and prolong looking back on that train wreck as long as I can. Sort of like when you turn on the news and instead of starting out with everything that's wrong with the world, they go, oh, little Jimmy raised $150 for charity today. Oh, by the way, there's a train wreck over there. So, little Jimmy just happens to be the Philadelphia Union who won the first playoff game in franchise history. Like, fair play to the Philadelphia Union. What a monumental achievement that is. They beat the New York Red Bulls in extra time 4-3. They advanced to the next round of the playoffs. What a game. What an effort. The Philadelphia Union soaring into the next round. That's exceptional. That is what you want to see in the world of Philadelphia sports. The rest of it, we're going to have to get into it, aren't we? And the thing is, right, we could spend all day talking about the game and what went wrong and why the team didn't win and all of this stuff, but I think it's much better to look at the last week now as a whole, from maybe last Saturday until today. A lot's happened, and I spoke about it in Friday's video or the podcast, whichever one you listen to, so I won't repeat myself, but I will go back over it for a brief timeline, okay? Let's start from the top, okay? The Minnesota Vikings blow out the Eagles, and suddenly Zach Brown looks very, very silly after the comments he made. Malcolm Jenkins shouts to Sidney Jones on the sideline, and then makes plenty of direct, indirect shots, sort of like the ones you say about your ex-girlfriend on social media. One day later, Zach Brown is released, Doug Pederson calls up WIP and says, we're gonna win in Dallas, we're going to take control of the division. On Tuesday, the Eagles miss out on the Jalen Ramsey sweepstakes just to add a bit of salt into the wound, just to rub that in a bit more. On Wednesday, they call up Alex Singleton, meaning that knowing Nigel Bradham is down, the linebacking group is now Nate Yari, Camu Grugier-Hill, Alex Singleton and TJ Edwards. Brilliant. On Thursday, an anonymous source comes out and just trash talks Carson Wentz and said that he's not checking the ball down enough and that the shots down the field aren't working. Then on Sunday, the Eagles lose to the Cowboys in the most embarrassing performance of the Doug Pederson era. Lane Johnson, after the game, goes out and says, hey, do you know what? It's accountability. Players are coming up late to meetings, they're late to practice, it's inside the locker room. And then on Monday, Malcolm Jenkins comes out and says, I don't know where he's getting that from. Where's Lane getting that narrative? You could not ask for a more unbuttoned team. It's absolutely barbaric. I really do not understand what is going on at this point. I have got no idea. There is a cultural problem within this team. And again, I don't even think this video is going to be talking about what happened in the game, because we all know in all aspects of the game, it was a total mess. There is no point looking back at it, trying to take anything of relevance, because everything sucked, apart from Hassan Ridgway, who got injured. So even the one silver lining still goes. It was a 12-11 since their Super Bowl win. They have not beaten the Cowboys since, I think, this time in 2017, so just under 2 years ago. Doug Pederson, after cutting a player for piping up and making comments to the media, does exactly the same thing. Guaranteeing that win is like that time I genuinely guaranteed the girl I was low-key in love with that I'd be with her in a year. That went well. A year later, didn't happen. Didn't happen, but you gotta be hopeful, you gotta believe. There is something fundamentally wrong inside the locker room, and frankly, I don't know what it is. I don't know who's to blame. Maybe it's an ego thing. This isn't even new. If we date back to last year, the Eagles coming off that Super Bowl when it was, there's targets on our backs, and that's why you go and choke a 3-possession lead to Carolina. That's why you choke against the Titans. It took an entire debacle of injuries for this team to find an underdog mentality. It's like they need the card stacked against them. They need their teeth kicked in to get any kind of reaction. Aside of that, they're just coasting along. There's no rush, there's no urgency, there's no sense of we need to win this. The only teams they've beaten in a convincing way were Washington and the New York Jets, who had Luke Falk at quarterback. Which is like me calling myself a chef, knowing that the only dishes I can cook without setting anything on fire are a grilled cheese sandwich and an instant noodle meal. Sidney Jones was apparently benched, and the plan was to start Craig James over him. That's got Rasul Douglas and Dexter McDougal written all over it, and we haven't even touched on the defense. We haven't even begun to talk about what's happened on the field. There is seemingly a fracture inside the locker room. There is something going on where you've got half the players, or at least some of the players, who are bitterly frustrated, as they should be, that the other half couldn't give a damn about what's going on, that they're going in there lackadaisical, and maybe they cut Zach Brown to set a tone, to be a precedent. Well, that went brilliantly, because for the first time all season, you give up 100 yards to a running back because you cut your best run defender. I have not been this angry since, well, last week, actually. I mean, last week was pretty bad. This isn't going well, is it? This really isn't going well. It just feels like almost a mini rebuild needs to happen. Like, Seattle had it. I think the Eagles have gone the same way. They've avoided the Carolina, okay? They've gone that way. They've avoided a Denver. They've navigated through that storm, but they're now trying to get through what Pete Carroll had to go through, which is a total dismantling of anything outstanding. And it's like they're reluctant to do that. And then you've got the whole drafting argument and people angry that they're not trading for Jalen Ramsey, which is fine. I totally understand that. It doesn't make matters any easier when Ramsey goes and balls out for the Rams in his first game. But the way we have to look at this, majority of players who are in the NFL draft to begin with are the elite of the elite. They have a talent to be a first rounder, to be a second rounder. If there is a unanimous take on a player to be a first rounder, the talent is that the potential is there. Whether that translates to the NFL comes down to the coaching staff, the player, the fit, the scheme, the development, and all the rest of it. I don't think the problem's the drafting. You can make a case for every player that's been drafted by the Eagles. The problem is the development of those players. If I give you the ingredients to make a cake and you piss on them before cooking them, whose fault is it that the cake tastes bad? Because it's not the ingredients' fault. So if we take that mentality and you look at why isn't Matt Collins producing? What happened to Shelton Gibson? Outside of Dallas Goedert and Rasul Douglas, I can't think of a player who I'm actually impressed with in the last 3 drafts. And I know this is taking Carson Wentz out of it. Because if you trade up from the bottom of the first round up to the top through a series of trades to acquire a quarterback, if he is anything less than what Carson Wentz is, that is a massive failure. Carson Wentz is what you expect from a number 2 overall pick. That's not a fantastic pick. It's not a great pick. It's a pick that you made, you're expected to make. You take a penalty in soccer, you're expected to score. You don't get any extra points for, oh, that was a beautiful penalty. Beautiful penalty. The ball is in the net. You scored. Well done. Move on. And then that brings us to the defense, which is, oh my God, we're so deep into this video and we've got so much left to go through. Do you ever play a video game and you can't get past a certain point or a certain boss, or you're playing FIFA and you can't win, so you go over and over and over again doing the same exact thing, and the only thing that ever changes is you're screaming more, you're hitting things, and the controller goes through a television? Jim Schwartz and this defense. He still stacked the box against Ezekiel Elliott. There was no real change going on. The only difference is the linebackers are significantly worse because both main starters are out and they didn't replace them and they haven't got the talent to do it and they didn't adjust as a result. So whose fault is this really on? Is it down to Nate Gary? Is it a lack of development? Is it a lack of scheming to protect him? Probably a little bit from column A, a little bit from column C, a little bit from column D. E, B? But you know what doesn't make you filled with rage? Philly Sports Network merchandise that you can get from the links down in the description below. It's getting towards winter, boys. We need to keep cozy. You can get hoodies. We're giving one away. 500 likes. We give away a PSN hoodie. We need your help. If you want to buy one, though, if you want to rep the brand, you can get them at the link in the description below. I mean, the only positive takeaway from defense is that Jalen Mills leapt like a salmon out of nowhere. He's come off an ankle injury, hasn't played football in a year, and he's flying around the field like an absolute jet engine, and I don't know where that's come from, but fair play, Green Goblin. Although it will be massively overlooked because it didn't count for anything. In literally a play later, they fumble and then the Cowboys get the ball. So, sorry about that. The bottom line is, I don't know where the Eagles go from here. Because even coming out of this game, you face the Buffalo Bills, who are 5-1. The Chicago Bears defense, where the Eagles are scoring about as many points in the first quarter as successful relationships I've had with females, which is about 3. And even that's being generous. Then you've got the Patriots and the Seahawks. What is the realistic expectation out of those games now? Because it's certainly not 4-0, and he's damn right not 3-1. The Bills game that was once considered a trap game is now a holy hell, we might actually genuinely lose this, and the Bills are going to be favoured. And after that, you've got 4 divisional games. You've got the Giants twice, the Cowboys once, the Redskins once. You're likely going to drop 1 against the Cowboys, drop 1 against the Giants. This is 7-9 written all over it. Yes, you've got over half of it left, but if you drop any of the next 4 games, if you don't turn this ship around right now, it's done. Because you are not going to get to the playoffs or succeed in the playoffs with 7-9 with any kind of dignity. Not when you've got anonymous sources coming out, not when Howard Eskin is leaking who that source is, and Doug Pederson's press conference is just literally this.
You're not looking at the whole pie, Jenny. Word of hog is one big pie. And if they've let me in charge of that one big pie, I'll be in charge of the pie and the people of the fruit. And
I don't have time for the pie thing,
you don't want it, no.
But before I want to fire myself out of a cannon, we're gonna move on and talk about the Flyers, who also make me want to fire myself out of a cannon twice. 2-3-1, they've had back-to-back losses, and it's the same problems plaguing this team. I don't know where you even begin to fix it. They did call up Joel Farabee though, so that's good, and as an honorary of support, look at that. But they're getting all the shots on goal and nothing is going through. Shock horror. They're out-shooting their opponents perfectly fine. They just can't get the puck in the net. It's sort of like having 50 Tinder matches, messaging 48 and not being able to get one on a date because you've got about as much flirtatious tendency as a raccoon. We'll see. They play a game tonight. What will happen? Who knows? But big note, we've got Alex McIntyre now shooting games. So that's awesome. Big up, Alex. The Sixers open their season on Wednesday and I'm praying to the sporting gods that this doesn't fill me with more incandescent rage because my heart really can't take it at this point. The Phillies are potentially on the edge of hiring Joe Girardi, who potentially could be the perfect blend of analytics and tradition, which is what they seem to be wanting now. And he has made good baseball decisions, which is something Kapler didn't do. Got a postseason record of 28-24 and has over 200 more wins than losses. That's about as much as I know, but I'll say go and do it. And that is about going to top us off. I know we've had a bit of a fly through today, but there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to be angry about. Guys, let us know how you feel down in the comments section below. From myself, Liam Jenkins, I'll see you next time. If you want to follow me on Twitter, @LiamJenkinsPSN. See you soon.